Yes, I've got a text that came through. So apparently the 3 song choices at quarter time were all Brisbane songs. And then at 3/4 time, they were all Collingwood songs, whatever the Collingwood songs were.
What were the Collingwood songs? I can't remember.
I don't know. I don't know if Collingwood have been playing songs after goals.
They just sing Collingwood.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we need. But all right, so that's a good square up. And then there was a couple of triggered Pies supporters here. I totally agree. I never want to hear that bloody song again. But anyway, okay, let's jump into it. So look, there's so many places you can go. So this isn't an exhaustive list, but it's a couple of talking points that I wanted to go to. Right. So number one for me is just the fast starting grand finals and how important that was. And Collingwood have done this in each of their finals. Against Melbourne, against GWS, and then again on the weekend, and it was field position that did the trick, and a couple of small forwards that got dangerous. And you've got to make your own luck. I thought the Nick Dacos high tackle was marginal. I'm not sure
his first goal.
Yeah, but you've got to have field position to do that. So I thought Mason Cox on McInerney in those first ruck duels was crucial. And Collingwood's midfield got to work. Across the board, it looked like over the balance of the game, the Collingwood midfield was dominant compared to the Brisbane midfield. I think that was a significant aspect of Collingwood's game. But they gave them field position early, and for Dacos to get involved as a forward to start the game, and then Bobby Hill, who got on the end of a Beau McCreary pass, which was great vision, and that got his game going. So if you get a small forward and you kick a goal early, and you're out to as that was the highest margin for Collingwood for the day, which was 12 points at the 6-minute mark. So significant to be able to jump out of the blocks.
So you reckon Collingwood controlled the match? I mean, looking at the scoreboard, it was a 4-point margin, but Collingwood kicked 1 goal 6 in that third quarter. And the game could have gone either way, but it felt as if the Magpies had the run of the game for most of the second half. Is that how you saw it from your angle?
Well, if statistically it looks that way. I mean, they had 57 inside 50s to 43. But point 2 for me is where Brisbane were in the game and were in danger of taking it further out of Collingwood's grasp. By the time we got to half-time, Brisbane, their forward efficiency was so good that was where we had this high-scoring game going. They didn't need much forward play to be able to score, and the Brisbane front six were exceptional. Oh, it was huge. And at half-time, you're thinking, with this, I mean, we're in a real contest here. We've already seen 17 goals scored. We saw 10 in the second quarter alone. But Brisbane's forward play was so good. Their best, so in terms of goals for inside 50s, they kicked at that stage, they kicked 9 goals from 25 entries. So that's better than 1 in 3.
Yep.
They're the best team in the competition at converting entries for goals across the season at 1 in 5. So they were beating their own best by a fair way. Bailey had kicked a couple of pearlers in the first quarter. Cameron had got on the board and kicked a couple in the second quarter. Danaher a couple in one in the first and one in the second. Both in the second, and McCarthy had hit the scoreboard. So 8 of their 9 goals had come from their front six. Their midfield had won enough clearance to give them supply, and they relied on that because they weren't actually moving the ball that well from their back half to their front half. They only had 43 insides for the whole game. But at that stage, you thought, well, if Brisbane's midfield can get enough supply to their forwards, Collingwood's back six aren't holding up as well as they have or as well as they could, and it looked like Brisbane were imposing the best of their football.
It's great analysis, but their midfield didn't kick the goals that they wanted the Lions.
No, and in the end, that's number 3. Great lead-in, mate. Like the Pies needed to find more scoring avenues, and they had only kicked single-figure goals in the first 2 finals for narrow wins, and it was going to be a challenge against a heavier scoring Brisbane side to be able to find those goals, and it ended up coming from the midfield. Geordie's at quarter time, Steele's towards the end of the last quarter, and Jack Cripps when they really needed one, the Pies, they were all 55-metre kicks. So that was exceptional finishing. But the midfield scoring was crucial. Crisp ended up kicking 2 off the wing at the end of the second quarter. De Goey got both of his as a midfielder. Sidebottom kicked his off the wing, and Scott Pendlebury kicked his as a midfielder. Dacos's was as a forward. So 6 of Collingwood's 12 goals were actually out of the midfield. So they didn't rely on their front six for scoring as much as Brisbane were, but the midfield dominance and their ability to to surge forward out of clearance and made them more, and in transition, made them more damaging than their Brisbane counterparts.
You know, in every grand final, there's iconic moments, and still Sidebottom's goal to me will be one of them. A veteran player, 55 metres out on a hot day, fatigued, sailing it through quite easily. Did you think he had the legs when he was having? It was a 50-metre penalty, wasn't it?
Absolutely not. Yeah. Absolutely not. And I've spoken to Steele about this quite a bit. I think he kicks the ball slightly further on his left than he does on his right when he goes around on the arc from a distance. But he was really confident. He's found that distance. He thought there was a little bit of breeze behind him, and the expected sort of hit up target sort of to the hot spot didn't appear as he began his run, but. That was significant because if the Collingwood midfielders didn't get forward to take advantage of their high forwards, did an enormous amount of defensive work and contest work out of the first kick out of stoppage, and then the surge of midfielders through that next contest was where the scoring came from.
And Pendlebury's kryptonite, and he's spoken about this, is sometimes his set shots, but he had no trouble with that at a time when he's at the 27th minute mark of the third quarter. And Collingwood hadn't kicked a goal in that third term up to that point. I think they had 0 goals 5 or something
Correct.
like that.
Yeah, and that was significant. And that was down my end. I was right on the angle and I had the same thoughts exactly to what you've said. It has been probably the only thing that he hasn't aced. He probably only gets an A minus for that part of the game.
And he concedes this.
And everything else is an A plus. But that just shows you the strength of character, and it needs to get done. But that was exceptional. Number 4 for me was centre bounce scoring and how important it is both ways. Collingwood ended up kicking 3-1 from centre bounce, and Brisbane kicked 2 of their own, which were both crucial. The Cameron goal out of quarter time as one of them. But the centre bounce scoring is quite often revolves around momentum, and Collingwood were able to, when Brisbane hit the front with the Charlie Cameron goal at the 18-minute mark of the last quarter, the first goal of that last quarter, Collingwood needed to respond, and that last centre bounce goal was significant. Brisbane had Dunkley, Neil, and Zorko. So they had Zorko, who's been a fast feet centre bounce player, Neil, who's one of the premiers, and Dunkley, who's a bigger body who gets the job done. Collingwood went in there with Pendlebury, Dacos, and De Goey. So when the ball hit the ground, it was actually Dacos v Neil. So it was the master and the apprentice.
Yep.
You know, the guy who's quickest feet, fastest hands, knows how to get in and out of contests against Nick Dacos, who is showing his wares in that situation. Nick was the one who actually got body in front because Neil was sweeping the contest, had to go and win that contest twice. Quick hands out to Pendlebury, the ball goes forward. Dunkley slips over, and already you've got Nick Dacos, who actually has spread forward of Lachie Neale, and you've got De Goey, who is in front of Josh Dunkley. The contest from Myercheck and the Brisbane defenders was excellent. But Jordan De Goey is actually on Nick Dacos's left. He knows already that if Nick gets this ball, they've played enough footy together, and Geordie's not stupid. He knows that if Nick gets the ball and he lets him know where he is, that he's going to find some space. So he actually crosses behind him, blocks Lachie Neale in the process, which gives Nick an extra half a second. Calls for the ball on his right, and the handball goes out instinctively. Nick actually said he was going to thump the ball 30 metres forward over the contest that he was running to. But that quick handball and then that finish was so crucial because you need to answer straight away to get that momentum back on your keel, and that was exceptional the way they did that.
And Jared Waitley called it beautifully. That was Jordan De Goey's moment, wasn't it? It's almost like his whole career had led up to this opportunity from 50 metres out, and he just nailed it. It was just him.
Well, and he's I think he's the highest ranked player on the field again. So that's 2 finals in a row that
De Goey was.
Was he? Yeah, and it was. I think it was in one of the rankings, in one of the AFL rankings. It was like 22ish. The ones that I don't know exactly how they. It's not a super coach, but he was the highest rated player on the field, and that just shows you how impactful his touches were. And when you're kicking goals in key moments, that's part of the reason that it pops up.
He had 18 and 2. What's next, Bucks?
So last one is I've got to go to Pendles. this guy played his 383rd game in his career. So he's drawn level with Robert Harvey, who has been one of my favourites for the longest time. But this bloke is definitely right up there for me. I think his last quarter and the way he willed himself into and through the contest, through the last quarter to be able to steer his team to his second premiership, I thought that was exceptional. I walked out of the club on Monday leading into the grand final, and Pat Lipinski, who has only played with Pendles for a couple of years, spoke about a couple of anecdotes where he had the ball and Pendles would be behind him saying, kick it out to the right. And he just kicks it out. He doesn't even need to look. He just puts it out there because he trusts his team. He trusts his captain. He trusts the way he sees the game. So Pendles has got he's the puppeteer, and he's got all of the guys around him, especially in defence.
Yep.
He was always great at setting up people, making sure you put him in that defensive midfield role. He sits slightly in front of the key of the running backs, and he just looks after the 11 players in front of him and makes sure that part of the ground is set. In offence or clearance, he does the same. 11 touches, 9 kicks, 2 handballs, 3 tackles, 3 marks, 4 contested possessions after kicking a goal late in the third. He, what a star. He is the Kobe Bryant of the AFL. And by that I mean he's a quiet achiever who is prepared to work every day to be better. He doesn't beat his chest. He doesn't. He's not loud. He's not brash.
No.
But he just kills with 1,000 cuts. Maybe he's the Warren Buffett of the AFL. He just thinks, well, I'll make the right decision today and tomorrow and the day after, and then I'll just get better and better and better, and the returns will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what he's done throughout the course of his career.
Does this performance elevate him to, in your mind, the greatest Collingwood player of all time? Is it
nearly impossible to argue? Impossible to argue. I think the fact that there is an irony. He's captain longer than anyone else at the football club, and he hasn't been a premiership captain. But he's won a Norm Smith medal, and he's directed.
Well, he's missed out on a year both either side, hasn't he?
Absolutely, he must be shattered.
Yeah. He's done very well. Scott Pendlebury, what a superstar, and he is contracted for next year as well. He should get to 400, and there is an article in The Age today by Mick Gleeson arguing that he is the best Collingwood player of all time, with your name and, of course, Peter Dacos and a few others in there as well. That's the Buck Stops here, thanks to OMF, Australian-owned and designed. A very good edition, a grand final edition. Bobby Hill, 4 goals, worthy Norm Smith medalist. It was unanimous amongst all the voters. So Luke Darcy, Eddie Betts, Jude Bolton, Sarah Ollie and Luke Shuey were the judges, and they all gave Bobby Hill 3 votes. Yeah,
it was really clear. I thought there were a lot of significant contributors, but he was... 6 scoring shots. He gave one off to Pendles. If he'd have kicked straight, he would have kicked 6.
Yeah.
So and could have kicked 7. I mean, that's how impactful he was. So, to have 18 touches, 16 of them in the front half, that's very rare. 16 touches in a front half in a granny, you're going to be one of the most damaging players on the field, and I thought that was accurate.
And do you think they got it right with Caden Coleman, who got 5 votes, and then Nick Dacos was 4?
Yeah, let's just take a moment to acknowledge that young man.
Yeah.
And he's 22 touches in the first half off the back of his prelim final performance. He hasn't. It probably goes to if we consider where Brisbane are. It goes to what Fags was saying afterwards about the fact that they've got a lot of growth in them still. And Coleman's performance was, he just finds time and space. Yep. He's hard and tough when he needs to be. He's so skillful. He's got a bit of show and go in him. I wonder, he's not running hard. He's not a hard runner, but he's just a smart runner. I don't know what his scope is going to be. He's untapped, really. He could go anywhere in the game, but what an enormous talent.
Give us a call on the IMAR Insurance Open Line, 1300 736 736. Bucks, I want to ask you about your experience as a Collingwood person on the weekend. How does it sit with you? As a fan, as a former player, as a coach, it must be difficult in some respects.
Oh, yeah, there were mixed emotions, but most of them were euphoria.
Yeah.
I had things come up that I didn't realise were there.
Such as what?
Well, I was openly sobbing at the final siren and beyond, and I was standing around and sitting around a lot of sort of ex-teammates, ex-players. I was next to Nick Maxwell. Pebs was nearby, Anthony Rocker and his family, Enza and their kids. And I had my head down trying to work it all out. And, Maxie and I were hugging. And then, Pebs came across and he whispered in my ear, he goes, "We got one back." And, you don't get them back. But there was a little bit of that, a little bit of poor bugger me that came into it. But the other part is looking at guys like Jeremy Howe, Braden Maynard, obviously Steele and Pendles who have won their second one. But just, Brody Myercheck, Jamie Elliott, who's had so many injury concerns, ups and downs, and would have wondered whether this day was ever going to come. So those boys, even Darcy Cameron, who'd come in relatively late, wasn't in the 18 program, but came in and had a significant impact. Isaac Quainer, Will Hoskin-Elliott's one that's been there for the most of the journey. So to see those guys rewarded, and then it's tempered by I think of Tay Adams, and I think, this is tough. And that's why, and John Noble. So, I hadn't rubbed shoulders with Dan McStay, but I can only imagine how that felt to be, to play your best footy towards the pointy end and then not be able to be there. But I think that's what grand final, that's what the pinnacle, pivotal moments bring out is the highs and the lows, the good and the bad, the excitement, the trials and the tribulations, and it's got it all, and it was a great day for it.
Beautifully described. I can't imagine how difficult it would have been, but also joyous as well. And I saw you in the rooms after the game giving Jeremy Howe a hug. So we might just touch on that.
I forced my way in there. I didn't have any tickets, but I didn't want to be there. Just wanted to be a fly on the wall. So I got in the corner, out of everyone's way, and spent 5 minutes there just observing it, and then got out.
Do you agree with him, Bucks? Still in the window or entering the window?
Well, It's a long way back, but I think the point he was making is that they've played finals consistently over the last 4 years of his tenure. They've played a lot of finals, and getting to this step is another step again. He made the point of only losing a close grand final, and that the history of teams that have done that and then have come back to win has happened quite consistently. West Coast in the middle of the 2000s, Hawthorn in 12 to 13, West Coast again 15 to 18, and then really now Collingwood 18 to 23. So it can happen.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the team that took the field, they're still quite young. I mean, Starcevic is still a young player. Wilmot's quite young. McCluggage is finding himself. He's had a tremendously consistent career, but he's found another level again. I mean, Charlie Cameron's going to be doing what he's doing for another 4 or 5 years minimum. Hipwood's still a young forward and still got a bit of growth, but still got a bit to go. Bailey, Rayner, Coleman, we just spoke about. Fletcher, who's come on in his first year. Ashcroft, who didn't play the second half of the year. So there's 10.
And they'll get Levi Ashcroft, who's probably a top 5 pick at the end of next year as well.
So, I mean, Lyons drops out.
Lyons got another year though.
But when you talk about guys that might not be in, so say that in 12 months' time, who might not be there? Like Lyons may or may not be there. Yeah. Zorko may or may not be there, depending on body we're talking about. McKenna's getting on, but he still looks like he's got a little bit in him.
Gunston.
Danaher's going to be, looks like he's going to be okay for another 12 months, maybe 2 years.
Yep.
So I mean, there's the argument in terms that's at their top. That's their top 25. We're not even looking at the growth that's coming in underneath. But Brisbane looked to me like they've been a very well-run club. Their list management has been good. I don't know where their TPP's at. That has an impact. But they look like they're sound and they've developed well. They're good for the now and they're good for the future. Yep. And Fags was reflecting that post-match to the granny. The
temper text machine is lighting up. Bucks, does this lament your decision to move on for the better of the club? Now it looks like to me is the most unselfish act a person who loves a club could do. That's from Blair.
Let's be clear. It was part of my, I had some part in it, but it was the club. It was a club decision. It wasn't just a walking away. But no, it was clearly the right decision for the footy club. I think the 21 drop off. I think that's overstated. I mean,
In what way?
well, it's sort of saying that to win a flag after being 17th 2 years ago, that's more the anomaly than the flag is.
Okay.
The last five or 6 years have been pretty strong for the football club over a period of time, and I think Craig McRae and his coaching staff deserve the credit. The playing group.
But you did help build it though, Bucks. Like a lot of these players.
No,
were
I
there
understand
when you were
that.
there.
No, I understand that. But look, with this team, where the club is at now is all credit to what has happened in the last couple of years, and they've been able to build on what was there before, which is what any coaching group or any playing group are trying to do. You don't you don't start you don't just everything doesn't go to ruins and then you build again. One thing I've been really proud of is that a lot of the language that comes out through Craig McRae and still comes out through the players is the same language that we began in 2017 into the 18-19 runs. So but you've still got to get it done. You've still got to go do it.
Yeah.
And this team, the club right now in 2023 and right now in September have been able to do it. So they deserve all the credit.
Can I ask about your experience in the rooms after the game?
Yeah, well, yeah. I didn't think that was going to happen. I just wanted to be down there to see a couple of the players.
'Cause I was there, and I was wondering whether you'd be down there. And I had a look around, and I couldn't see you, so you must have been well hidden.
No, well, I know the security guards pretty well. The guys, there's a few guys there that used to help me up and back from the coach's box for a long time, and got to know them pretty well. So they were. I didn't have a pass, but I snuck my way and saw Paul Curie on the way in. We shared an embrace and a few nice words, and some of the staff saw Neil Price, the boot starter. I got one step in and then took 2 steps to the left. There's a corner there that no one really knows is there. It's on the way to the media room, and I just wanted to sit and absorb. It was a selfish part of me that I wanted to be a part of it, but I didn't want to be anywhere. I didn't want to cheat my way into it in many ways. So that's what I felt, and I was able to sit there pretty much like a fly on the wall. Got to about 8 or 9 or 10, couple of the players, couple of the staff, and then I didn't feel like I'd outstayed my welcome, but it wasn't my place.
Were you emotional at this point?
Yeah. Throughout probably the 45 minutes post siren.
Yeah.
Then made my way around the September Club, walked through the faithful, a lot of high fives, a lot of cuddles,
a few photos.
I had to keep moving. I didn't know what was going to happen if I'd have stopped, but that was amazing. It was great to be in the midst of that and to feel the joy of the support that's come over the fence for the best part of 30 years. So yeah, I was just another Collingwood Nuffy gal for it, and I was loving it.